I want to shift our focus to abortion, which is one of the dominant issues in this entire presidential campaign. Mr. Jha, let me understand from you what you think of how Donald Trump responded to this entire abortion debate. Kamala Harris, well known a champion of women's rights, she has been reiterating what she stood for and how she fought in this entire case. Donald Trump's argument in this case, seemed like a very shoddy sort of an argument when he said that, women are going for abortion in their 9th month of pregnancy. I mean, first of all, that's medically incorrect. Second of all, why can't you just say that, I do not support abortion, or just that women have rights on their own bodies?
That is one issue on which Republicans are generally weak in explaining the whole problem. This is what is critical. Nobody, even the pro-lifers are, for example, I'm against abortion, all right? But I definitely recognize the need for abortion in cases of exceptional scenarios happen. God forbid, if my daughter were to be raped by an Islamist guy, I wouldn't want that child on this planet Earth. I would allow her the liberty to take her decision to choice. The choice is hers. The issue is very important here. Abortion is an issue of once upon a time scenario versus today's scenario. Today, you have any number of birth control facilities available, options available, and responsibility available. Nobody talks about that component of it. So but by the way, the 9-month thing that you talked about, the West Virginia governor did say this. I have heard it myself. I don't need to quote anybody on that. I heard it myself when he said in a public forum that we will decide the child's life after if the baby is born. That's what Trump was quoting about. And I'm told that in 6 or 7 states, late-stage abortions are allowed. Now, considerations are very important. Mother's life, I support it. If mother's life is endangered, child's life is endangered, or exceptional circumstances, this has to be allowed. But a lot of people don't understand. The rest of the world gets confused about the abortion matter. A whole lot of things in this country are on federal structure. You may be surprised to know that just because you have a brokerage license or a license to do something in New York, you can't do in New Jersey. You have to have New Jersey license for a stockbroker or insurance agent. Likewise, to open an office in Wisconsin or California, each state has its own authority to do something. California has the rule, they allow illegal immigrants to vote in local elections. These are the state matters, and that's where the whole thing, that it need not be a national mandate. Let each state decide it, throw the matter back to the states, and which I feel is reasonable enough. But one matter which is missed out, and nobody talks about it, the young men and women where these unwanted pregnancies happen, they need to be made available with birth control support systems, whether it's pills or pills, because you have a responsibility to make sure that you do not indulge in practices that lead to unwanted pregnancy. That education is not happening here. So if you are indulging in sexual practice and it ends up in pregnancy, you will say, I'll get my abortion done. That's the one thing which has to be talked about in a more social, germane way than instead of just throwing my right, my body, which is true. Nobody's contesting that. So that's the issue here. You can do it, any state that can do. Thank you.
Okay. Nisha Acharya, illegal immigration, a point and issue that was talked about extensively, that was debated extensively, not just in the debate, but throughout this campaign. We've seen Republicans and Democrats being deeply divided on it, and something perhaps many observers say will go against the Democrats, because it is in their regime, it is during their time that the highest number of undocumented immigrants have been recorded there, have been entering the United States.
However, that fact has to be clarified a little bit. Under every president, the number of illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants coming to the United States has gone up. So Trump was more than Obama, Biden is more than Trump. And there's a couple of factors at play here. One is the economies in Central America, where there's a lot of drugs, there's a lot of gangs. governments are unstable. So people are looking for a better life. And so they're making their way to the United States. And we do not have a good system for evaluating and vetting those people to come in. And so that's been a challenge. The second challenge is that immigration is not one size fits all. We have highly educated immigrants coming from India. We also have the second largest group coming to the Mexican border are also Indians, and they're trying to come illegally. And so obviously, using the example of Indians, we can see that this is a complex issue. Now, what the Biden administration proposed and what they came to an agreement with the United States Senate, with the conservative Republican senators, was to significantly increase the amount of border patrol, the amount of people who are actually even let in for a hearing on a day-to-day basis, and the use of technology to monitor the border. And it was President Trump who decided that he would not accept that and convince the Republican colleagues not to vote. So that's actually, we would have had a bill to strengthen the border if President Trump had been interested in that. And the last thing I'll say is, I think it's important to know that this is not, again, this is a complicated issue. If a family comes to the U.S. border seeking asylum because they've been politically persecuted or religiously persecuted, the American culture for 250 years has been to give them a chance to tell their story and to possibly get asylum in the United States. And so at no point will we be closing the doors entirely and not letting anybody in. We will have a system. Now, is the system broken? Yes, the system is broken, and we don't have a way to quickly do that. But systems can be fixed. And that legislation was an
what's
attempt
ironic,
to fix it,
Nisha Acharya, is also the fact,
wasn't.
and Vibhuti that the Trump team and the Trump campaign keeps talking about strengthening the border security, but during Trump's regime, there was nothing solid, nothing substantial that was done to block that. But let me quickly, before I wrap this discussion up, ask the both of you, American society, American people stand deeply divided, perhaps the most divided in their history over the politics that has been playing out. Do you think that either Trump or Biden, beg your pardon, or Kamala have that sort of, potential in them to unify the nation? Kamala keeps talking about it, Trump keeps talking about it, but when it comes to actual implementation, Vibhuti, who do you think is actually, capable of doing that, if at all?
That is a brilliant question in terms of uniting and dividing the country. Everybody talks about uniting, unity. It's a good word. It's a psychological suppressant word where you feel good about being united. But important part here is, who has been dividing the country? Think about it from that perspective. Obama said, we are not red, white, and blue. We are United States of America. But on record, he has been single most devastating, degenerating, dividing the country in the most vicious way. Biden talked about, I'll unite. What did he do to unite? He further damaged the fabric of the country. I had said this in a think tank meeting about 10 years ago. What will destroy this country is the political apathy or the bitterness that exists between the two parties. And this is an issue that they need to address seriously. This is unity comes around the cause.
I have to take in a quick word from Nisha Acharya as well. Yeah. Nisha Acharya, 30 seconds before I wrap this discussion up then.
So until Donald Trump came onto the stage, there was a lot of collaboration between Democrats and Republicans. There was more of a common definition of what it means to be American. In the last 3 election cycles, that has not been the case because of the words and actions of the Republican nominee. I think whether it's Kamala Harris or in the next 4 years when there's another election, I think both parties and both candidates need to get back to that definition of what is an American and a common set of values and goals that we have. And then we can discuss whether or not there's a role for government or there's a role for a private sector. But we need to get back to that area where we have some common agreement about what it means to be an American. And we need that leadership from our candidates for president.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much to both of you gentlemen, Nisha Acharya and Vibhuti Jha, for joining us on Mirror Now and sharing your perspective on that.